And here we go. The Pies play in 4 days against the Giants. Half an opening round. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, like I've been saying, my merch is now available. T-shirts, the hats are right in. I'm doing a run of these to send out on Thursday, which is tomorrow as of recording this. So if you want them soon, get your order in tonight and I will send those out tomorrow. There's only about 50, there's only about 28 or 29 left, which is absolutely incredible. So just very thankful for everyone who has ordered and has ordered the teas as well. So they'll go out. What else is there? Pretty much just the merch. Let's get straight into this game. All right, so like I said, and if you can't hear from my voice, the game starts in a few days. Sunday up in Sydney is going to be a very wet, gross, disgusting game. I read somewhere that there might be a concert on before it as well. It's going to be the remnants of that cyclone rain. So it is going to be an insane game, but I am so excited. I was excited for the match simulations and those dumb practice matches. Imagine all of us now just thinking about this game against the Giants. And what an incredible time to take on the Giants, who are very undermanned at the moment. So going into this game, we don't have a lot to go off besides those practice matches. And how much do you take out of the practice matches? We beat the Tigers by 83 points. Triple M's combining for a total of 10 goals, sorry. And the Giants lost to Carlton by I think it was 30 or 40 or so points. And that was an interesting game. So what we'll do is we'll look into those games a little bit. But again, don't take much out of it because we've seen practice games where a team loses by 60 points and then comes out and wins their first game by 30 points. So it's just teams trialing stuff. It was just good to have some competitive football back. So let's look at the Collingwood-Richmond game. Again, we've already dissected this a lot. Our Triple M scoring 10 goals, Jamie Elliott and Bobby Hill all combining for 16 goals, which was incredible. The forward line is where our magic will work. We saw the run off half back come back. We've talked about this multiple times. So it was nice to see that chaotic kamikaze football. Isaac Quaynor down back. Josh Dacos down back. There's not going to be any Dan Houston because he is suspended. As for the Giants, now I watched the Giants game again just the other day, and I was really interested with that first quarter. They went with no goals in that first quarter, but Carlton and credit to Carlton for decimating the Giants as well. But Carlton just ran over the top of them, especially in that forward line. The Giants looked like they didn't want to chase. The Giants looked like they were very slow against the Blues' forwards, who were just super quick. Kemp was taking heaps of good marks against Taylor. So that sort of gives you sets a precedent that McStay or Mychek or Member, whoever is going to play on Sam Taylor, that you might be able to get the better of him. And with our three talls, that could be an interesting lineup because when we versed 17 of these other teams in previous years, we haven't had those three talls that they had to combat with. It's really just, let's double team Mychek, or when Mychek's not playing and McStay's playing, let's double team McStay or let's double team Cox, and we'll just go about our day. But now our forward line is the most potent and the most dangerous it has been. God, I know we won a premiership with a similar forward line, but I want to say it's the most dangerous it's been since like Travis Cloke, Lee Brown when he was down there, and Chris Dawes, if you will, because it's just a tantalising prospect, this forward line. But again, on that Giants game, there were some of their, Whitfield had a great game. Callahan had a great game. So those two players are going to have to step up with no Tom Green as well. So they're really going to have to step up. Bedford, Daniels, so all the sort of usual guys had a good game. But I just saw that if you can outrun this Giant side, who play very similar to us, so if you can outrun them, you've got a really good chance at beating them because they play that chaotic sort of handball, off half-back sort of football that we play. As soon as you get them on a turnover, and we're really good at creating turnovers, that's one of our biggest positives going into this season, we will get them on that counter-attack. Where will this game be won and where will it be lost? Now, like I said, the Giants are decimated with injuries at the moment. No Hogan, which is huge. Darcy Moore's breathing a sigh of relief at the moment. No Jake Stringer, which is huge as well. He had an illness in the preseason game and now, he's got a bit of an injury. So that really helps us. So that's two of their better forwards gone. And Jake Stringer always tears us up. And Jesse Hogan would have been on track to kick 5 goals because that's what Jesse Hogan does. And no Tom Green, who is, their premier ball user, their in and under sort of ball user, gets really dirty, kind of like a Titch, if you will, similar sort of traits, but he can gather his own ball and stuff like that. So 3 really big outs, 2 of those being really big forwards. Now, what that means is in the Giants' forward line, they do like to play Toby Green. Against Carlton, he was running through the middle a lot. We probably don't see him go back into the middle. A lot is going to rest on Cadman's shoulders. Callum Brown is 50-50. I'm reading parts where they're saying he won't play. Other articles saying that he will play. So they might rush him back when he's a little bit underdone. Daniels and Jones as those sort of smaller forwards are going to have to work even harder with no Jake Stringer, and they're not feeding off Jesse Hogan. So our backline have caught a bit of a reprieve with no Hogan and no Stringer, but we cannot take this Giants side lightly. I've seen a lot of, and even I've said it, like I'd love to win by 40 points against the Giants, but they've still got Callahan. Halloran is incredible. Whitfield, like I said, Callum Ward, when I look at Callum Ward, he is the face of the Giants for me. Canelio, Kelly, so they've still got premier players all throughout. So even though they've lost 3 really good players, kind of like us with that Hydra mentality, you cut one off and 2 sort of pop up. So we cannot take this Giants side lightly, but in saying that, our defenders should be able to get on top of the forwards. And what I do want to see is from our forwards, so this is where the game will be won or lost as well, obviously we need to produce a winning score, right? Duh. But like I said in my previous video, I want to see the Triple M's combine for 100 goals or close to this season. If they can kick anywhere together between 6 to 10 goals, I'm not saying, combine kick 10 goals every single game, but 6 to 10 goals, that's 2, let's just say 6, that's 2 goals each. That goes a long way, right? But because then you got Jamie Elliott popping up, you got Lockie Schultz, Bo McCreary, Bobby Hill, who has kicked 8 goals in the last 2 weeks for the All-Stars and for the Pies against Richmond. So we are super dangerous up forward, and that is probably our biggest strength. The matchup really that I'm looking forward to is Nick Dacos, and you would think it'd be Toby Bedford. So the Giants would be pretty stupid not to play a really hard tag on Nick Dacos. And like I said, you would think it'd be Bedford that sort of straight goes to him. We've seen Bedford in a tagging role before. He did that last week against Carlton as well. So I think they're just going to tag him, and every other team is going to tag him. But the thing we love about Nick, and the thing that we've said so many times, is they love a tag because 1, other players can help him out. We've seen that especially against Sydney a couple of years ago. And 2, the beauty about Nick is he's not just a midfielder. If he wants to shake a tag, put him at half back and let Bedford come down and play as a forward. If he wants to shake a tag, put him as a forward. Let him kick 2 or 3 goals because we know Nick is super capable of that. So we welcome the tag because, again, Hydra mentality. You try and stop Nick, 2 of our other guys pop up. Harry Perryman against his old club can have a standout game. Jack Crisp in his 250th game. Scott Pendlebury still slide on him. Do we see him play as an inside mid like he did against Richmond? So with the Carmelian mentality as well, that Craig McRae wants players to play in 2 or 3 different positions, you tag Nick, he's still going to get 20 odd disposals, maybe even kick a goal as our full-time mid, even with a tag, I feel. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they put a really hard tag on him or just sort of put players around him in stoppages, kind of like what Pendles does to Patrick Cripps when we play against Carlton. So what I'm looking forward to the most in this game, yes, is our forward line, but I've got my eyes on Reef McInnes. Now, with a depleted forward line against the Giants, thankfully he's not in a baptism of fire where he has to go up against Hogan and Stringer and these guys. But I'm wondering, does Moore go on to Cadman now that Hogan's not there? Or do they sort of say, what, Reef? Go on Cadman, let Darcy Moore come over the top instead of you coming up over the top. So it's going to be interesting how that back 6 sort of works, especially with no Dan Houston now. Josh Dacos playing predominantly halfback as that's quarterback, and that run and gun out of the back line. So I'm keen to see how Reef McInnes goes against a semi-depleted forward line from the Giants. If he, who else could he sort of line up on? No one really. No one's that sort of tallish player that's that Reef is. So I'd love to see him straight on Cadman and let Darcy Moore and Jeremy Howe fly over the top. So that's going to be really interesting. So I had the absolute pleasure of jumping onto They Might Become Giants podcast, two huge Giants fans, and this is what they think about the game coming up.
Collingwood have been flying in the preseason. Now, you did play the Richmond Tigers, so it's a bunch of 18-year-olds running around at the moment.
Not a real team.
But I watched that game and incredibly slick. The ball movement was pinging around. You guys couldn't miss. At least for the first half, you had me a little bit stressed. If I'm, we look like we were sort of half playing our games, and you guys look well tuned. Your defense against our forward line, the jewel in the giant crown. We've got Hogan up there, and Cadman, who's sort of gone to the next level at the end of last year, is progressing well. Stringer, who is a mystery to us, but I know plays quite well against Collingwood and has done historically. Daniels, Green, Jones, quite a dangerous little forward line. How do you feel like the Pies match up?
Yeah, look, I feel like small, medium forwards we match up well against just in general, like
Maynard going to Green usually.
Yeah, right? But it's those bigger players like your Cadman, who was just starting to grow into his body, and obviously like common medalist Jesse Hogan, who just came from the Clouds last season, and that's where something that we definitely struggled with last year, losing Nathan Murphy retirement because of the concussions. But now we got sort of Reef McGuinness down back, 195 centimeter, was a forward, switched back to like a key defensive post as a third tall intercept marker. Where Collingwood aren't one-on-one defensive strong. Like that's just not our game. We don't have those big key backs. So that's why, players like King, Curnow, Hogan, they can kick a bag of 4, 5 or 6 onto us. So, what I'm sort of hoping for is keeping Jesse Hogan to at least half a dozen goals and hoping he doesn't kick more, and just hoping. Now, big calls and predictions. My big call for the game. I think that Bobby Hill's going to kick 4 goals against his old team. And I really do think that this is a GWS sort of themed big call. And I reckon Harry Perryman's going to lay 12 tackles against the Giants in that midfield, protecting Nick, right? That's where he's got to get most of his tackles, protecting Nick when Nick's sort of around. And my prediction is I think the Pies are going to win, and I think we're going to win big. I think we're going to win by 30 plus points just because of that depleted Giants forward line, and, with no Tom Green. They still are going to be dangerous. We can't take them lightly. The ground is going to be absolutely shithouse. So definitely watch out for that. If it rains, who knows what's sort of going to happen, right? But if it rains, it'll be a little bit closer than that. If it rains, I'm looking at maybe a Pies win by 19 points, so 3 goals or so. But if it sort of rains, clears up, I really think that we can absolutely tear them to pieces. But anyway, guys, leave your thoughts down below, your big call, your predictions. What do you think the game is going to play, or how do you think the game is going to play out? I'll be there in Sydney. I'll be doing a swooping around after the game. So if you're in Sydney or you're going to be there, catch me doing a swooping around after the game. We'll open up the voicemails as well. But until then, buy the merch, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, double shackers. I'll swoop you later.